What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react to 10 mind-blowing things about Canada. At least, that is what this video is promising me. So, like most Americans, there's a lot about Canada in general that I don't understand and I don't know about. Wasn't taught about, never heard of. You get the idea. So today, I thought it would be a lot of fun to check out this video by Make That Change, which has 10 things about Canada that most Americans have never heard of before. So let's take a look.
What comes to your mind when you think about Canada?
Maple syrup, hockey, and politeness.
Turns out there's a lot.
Oh my God, they nailed it. That's actually not even a joke. Those are literally the things that most Americans think of when we think of Canada. It's stereotypes, call it whatever you want. They literally hit the nail on the head.
Think about Canada.
Maple syrup, hockey, and politeness.
Turns out there's a lot.
And don't get me wrong. I like syrup. I did a video where I tried a lot of different Canadian maple syrups. Delicious. Fantastic. Hockey's cool. Politeness. Awesome. I'm a big advocate of politeness.
More quirky things that make Canada's history, culture, and geography pretty unusual.
So today we're
Okay.
going to share 10 mind-blowing things about this country.
Wow, you're telling me that there's more to the entire country and culture of Canada than those three things. There's more? I'm just kidding. Yes, of course there's more. But I do like that it sounds like we're going to step outside the normal, general, expected things that Canada is known for. These are like 10 mind-blowing things that you don't know about Canada.
When I saw some of this, I was like, wait, what? And let's play a game.
Okay.
Keep a count of how many things you didn't know and let us know in the comments below. And if you
geez.
didn't know at least 5 out of 10, this video deserves a like.
Buckle up and let's go.
I expect to not know most of this.
When we think about Canada, we imagine mountains, snowy prairies, and vast forests.
No, actually, no. Actually, no. I'm going to disagree. As far as Americans go, when we think of Canada, we do think of like snow, the S word, snow. Other than that, a lot of Americans don't really picture mountains or forest or any of that stuff, to be completely honest.
The last thing most of us think of is sandy beaches, sea waves, and marinas full of yachts. But wait,
No.
spanning over 240,000 kilometers, Canada has the longest coastline in the world. This coastline stretches longer
Right.
than any other country on Earth. To put that into perspective,
So I know Canada is very big. And when I think about it for 2 seconds, of course you have a gigantic coast. Does this mean Canada has a lot of beach? You have a lot of coast. The coast has beaches. Why have I never thought about that? These are the things that as Americans we just don't think about. I don't know. Maybe we're stuck in our own little America bubble here, but Canada has a lot of beaches? Is that what we're saying?
if you take this line and wrap it around our planet, it will wrap around a whopping 6 times. Amare
God.
usque ad mare is the official motto of Canada. It translates to from sea to sea.
Canada has a motto? What language is that? Amari usque ad mare. Admire. Could I say this in more of a American English way? A Mary Uske ad Mari. I'm sure that's exactly how you pronounce that. From sea to sea. From sea to sea sounds kind of familiar.
It spans from the rugged Pacific Ocean in the west through the icy Arctic waters up north to the vibrant Atlantic shores in the east,
Right.
embodying the boundless spirit of this remarkable land. Not everyone is into surfing Arctic waves. After all, it's so cold up there that even maple syrup starts to freeze.
So, the first mind-blowing fact is really talking about how much coast or specifically how much beach Canada actually has. And this is a good one because I've never thought about beaches and Canada like related at all.
That's why only 15% of Canadians live near the coast. Of these, over 3.2 million people reside on the Pacific coast and over 2.2 million are on the Atlantic coast.
It is beautiful.
But while some Canadians stick to the edges of the country, others dig deep, literally.
Okay.
Deep under the Lake Huron in Ontario lies the largest underground salt mine in the world, the
Huh?
Goderich Mine.
Biggest underground salt mine is in Canada. Ontario, did they say? Biggest underground salt mine. That might be the most random fact about Canada I've ever heard, ever. Okay. Good for you guys.
This thing is so massive that it's about the same size as the town of Goderich, covering a surface area of 7 square kilometers beneath the Lake Huron.
Really?
The tunnels go as deep as 550 meters below the lake. This is enough to fit the Toronto CN Tower in there.
What?
Opened in 1959, the mine is still operational, producing rock salt, which ends up all around North America. It helps all of us stay safe on the snowy and icy roads.
Salt for like clearing snowy roads. I'm oddly fascinated by this. You know, you don't typically think of salt as being particularly interesting. You know, I don't think I'm saying anything crazy here. But the fact that this is the way she described how big this freaking salt mine is.
The mine is operational. Taking tours below the surface is sadly not an option. But how cool would it be to check it out? You can learn more about the mine at the Huron County Museum or experience the mine virtually.
Okay. Interesting. Okay.
Now let's zoom out. Have you ever wondered how time zones became a thing? You can thank Canada for this.
What?
Back in 1876, Sir Sanford Fleming, a Scottish-born Canadian engineer, found himself stranded overnight at a railway station after a mix-up over train departure times.
A Canadian came up with time zones? Is that what we're saying?
He got really frustrated, but also inspired, so he came up with an idea of the global system of time zones that we use today. So the next time you miss a train, remember, you can turn waiting time into a world-changing idea.
This is why, this was back in the day where you just sat on a bench. You didn't have your cell phone, your smartphone, your laptop, your television, your YouTube. If back then, if you were waiting for your train, you couldn't just pull up a Tyler Bucket video and kill 20 minutes. No, you had to sit and think, and that's how people came up with time zones.
This idea divided the world into 24 time zones, labeled A to Y, skipping J.
Wow.
Each letter covered 15 degrees of longitude. All clocks within each zone would be set to the same time as the others, but differed by 1 hour from those in the neighboring zones.
Right.
While Fleming's exact system wasn't universally adopted, it laid the foundation for the time zone structure countries use today.
Wow.
In Canada, time zones run with 1 hour offset, but Newfoundland and Southern Labrador decided to adopt a different approach. Their time zone has a 30-minute offset from UTC in the Americas.
What?
Why is that? Well, in the late 90s...
This video is great. Talk about some Canadian stuff I would never learn about any other way.
18th century, Newfoundlanders chose their 30-minute offset because that was close to the local solar time in St. John's. That's the city where most Newfoundlanders lived. If you ever missed a Zoom call due to time zones mix-up, you can thank Canada. To make up for that, Canadians supply the world with the golden goodness, maple syrup.
Okay. What? What? Was that a joke? Like, no one's actually mad that time zones exist. Like, maple syrup doesn't have to be your penance, to make up for it.
Speaking of which, Canadians are proud of their maple syrup. They love it so much that they're ready to serve time for it. In 2012, Canada had the Great Canadian Maple Syrup Heist.
This sounds familiar. I almost want to say, I believe I did a video learning a bit about this a while ago on this channel. The Great Canadian Maple Syrup Heist. Most Americans have never heard of this, and if and when Americans hear about this Great Canadian Maple Syrup Heist, it's too on the nose. It's like, Canadians, if you're trying to like break away from your stereotypes, like, oh, moose and syrup, and do not let anyone hear about this, because this is so on the nose. Like, come on. This is the most Canadian crime ever.
The story became so famous that there's even a Wikipedia page dedicated to it. Thieves stole over 3,000 tons of maple syrup from a Quebec storage facility. That's nearly $19 million. That's an equivalent to about 24 million Canadian dollars today.
How did they move that much maple syrup? I don't remember. How did they even steal that quantity of maple syrup? How do you even do that?
The theft was actually accidentally discovered during an annual inventory check of syrup barrels in 2012. The inspector started climbing up the barrels and nearly fell, expecting to step firmly on the sturdy 600-pound barrels. But they were wobbly. It was an insider job, and police ended up arresting 17 men related to the theft. If you're curious to learn how they did it, the theft was featured in the Netflix docu-series Dirty Money.
Really? There's a Netflix documentary about this? No kidding. How do you, of all the things, maple syrup, how do you transport that much? Who do you sell it to? It's hard to unload. Like, if you're selling even drugs or something, God forbid, there's probably some people you can go to. I don't know who those people are. Don't ask me. But there's probably people who will buy your drugs, for better or worse. Who is going to buy all your $20 million of maple syrup? How are you going to offload that?
In 2018, Season 1, Episode 5, called The Maple Syrup Heist. On December 6th, 2024, Amazon released the dark comedy TV series The Sticky, inspired by the heist. And it's rated 81% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is pretty good.
What?
While it's not the largest heist in monetary terms, the maple syrup heist is big for the sheer volume of product stolen and the impact that it had on the key Canadian maple syrup industry.
That's insane.
Adjusted for inflation, it remains the most valuable theft in Canadian history.
That is
with
insane.
The recent Pearson Airport gold heist following up right next, where 20 million of Canadian dollars were stolen. And yes, Canadians were deeply offended by this crime. This wasn't just syrup, it was national pride.
Offended, yes, that's all good. It's almost a bit impressive if it wasn't so illegal and bad.
Another subject of Canadian pride is the fact that Canada is one of the world's top exporters of clean energy. For starters, hydroelectricity is the largest renewable energy source in Canada.
Really? That makes sense, because Canada has so much water, right? I never connected that to hydroelectricity. A lot of Americans don't really think of Canada as this big, huge energy exporter, energy nation. So this is a good one.
accounting for approximately 60% of all electricity Canada generates.
Wow.
Other renewable energy sources, such as biomass, wind, tidal, and solar, bring this number to 63%.
Wow.
And nuclear energy...
Wow, all with like renewable sources of energy. That's amazing.
To this, and we end up with over 77% of Canada's electricity generated without emitting greenhouse gases.
Wow. Amazing.
Canada not only powers itself with clean energy, but also exports large quantities of electricity to the United States, helping reduce carbon emissions across borders.
And, you know, to be honest, I never really acknowledged that. You know, I really didn't know. So I would say most Americans don't know how much Canada really does for the United States.
For instance, 15% of electricity used in the state of New York comes from Quebec.
Wow.
Think of it as Canada's way of lending a hand, or, you know, a kilowatt. The energy sector is a major driver of Canada's economy, contributing billions annually while staying ahead of the curve in sustainability. But you already knew that. What you may not know is that Canada's growing its investment into wind, solar, and nuclear energy, making this country so attractive that even the Americans want a piece of it.
This didn't age well. This did not age well. Yes, America. Trump does want a piece of it, literally. All of it. That is a bad joke, bad reference, but that's amazing. That's awesome what Canada is doing with the renewable energy. That's amazing. I didn't know that.
Even though we are known for our cold weather, when it comes to energy, we're pretty hot. Let's go over to the magical islands of Nova Scotia next, the Sable Island to be more exact.
Okay.
Situated 300 kilometers southeast of Halifax, this remote stretch was once dubbed the Graveyard of the Atlantic, with nearly 400 shipwrecks around it.
What is this? What is this? This is some island off of Nova Scotia?
The most fascinating thing about it is that it's home to about 500 wild horses. The first horses were released on the Sable Island in the late 1700s by settlers from Boston. Though legend has it, some may have been borrowed from unsuspecting fishermen. Later, additional
There's an island of wild horses in Canada. Nova Scotia. That's what's happening?
Horses were brought in to improve the herd's breeding stock. Originally intended for private use and slaughter, this exploitation pushed the horses to the brink of extinction by the 1950s. And that turned their story into one of survival against the odds. So in the 1960s, the Canadian government decided to protect the horses by law in their feral state. As a result, the herd had developed a unique genetic composition that brought the attention of conservationists.
Really? You don't hear about wild horses very much. A whole island of them in Canada. Just crazy wild horses running around with their hair.
The Sable Island horses have become such a distinct feature of the region that they were designated an official symbol of Nova Scotia in 2008.
Really?
And a few years later, in 2011, this place was declared as the Sable Island National Park Reserve.
Really? That's
If you're like me and you love horses, you can visit the island in January and February.
You can?
And from June to October.
You can visit. Is that safe? Are the horses okay? Is the governor horse the premier horse? They sign off on this?
Just make sure you have Parks Canada permission in advance. The island is accessible by air or by sea, and only day visits are permitted. Just remember to leave no trace and don't feed the wild horses.
Okay.
From the windswept shores of Nova Scotia, let's head inland and discover another Canadian treasure. It's lakes. With 60% of world's lakes, more than 2 million of them, Canada has more lakes than the rest of the world combined.
And I've learned about Canada and its water and its lakes. Did she say 60% of the planet's lakes are in Canada? Really?
While many places in the world declare freshwater access emergencies, Canada contains more than half of the world's freshwater reserves.
Right.
Let it sink in. Canada has so many lakes that if you only measure actual land area and exclude the lakes area, Canada is no longer the second largest country in the world.
Oh my
Not
God.
even the third. It will drop behind the US.
Really?
Some lakes in Canada are so big they feel like a sea.
'Cause, growing up here in the United States, lakes are not something we associate with Canada either, even though we should. Like, Canada has the most lakes, by far.
40 million residents of the United States and Canada depend on the fresh drinking water supplied by the Great Lakes water system.
We depend on the lakes!
Canada's lakes power is not to be taken lightly. While oceans often steal the spotlight for their global importance, lakes are just as vital for the global and local ecology. They shape weather patterns, support ecosystems, and even impact climate. The lakes play a massive role in Canada's ecology, acting as a crucial player in the water cycle that sustains life across the entire country.
Oh my God. I do feel like I really underappreciate lakes after hearing this.
Not just scenic, they're essential.
Oh.
And as essential as they are, we haven't even fully studied them yet. Up until today, scientists haven't been able to see too far below the surface of the lakes. In fact, scientists have only accurately catalogued about 100 lakes so far.
Wow.
The Great Lakes hold water from glaciers that melted 20,000 years ago.
Wow.
It's mind-boggling to think about what secrets or discoveries might be hidden down there.
What's going on in those lakes? What's going on down there?
Ancient ecosystems, unknown species, or maybe a monster or two. Who knows?
Maybe.
Canada's lakes are keeping their secrets. For now.
Okay. Now I'm scared.
Here's another force with some secret funky moves. Did you know that Canada's magnetic North Pole is always on the move? So let's start from the beginning. Imagine you're standing at the North Magnetic Pole. It's a rather special spot on Earth. All the planet's invisible magnetic field lines dive straight down into the ground. If a compass needle could move in all directions, it would point straight down there. What's even more mind-blowing is, no matter which direction you step in the North Pole, it will technically be south everywhere. There's no north left to go since you're already at the northernmost point.
That's true.
So that
Are we talking about the North Pole, though? Or are we talking about part of Canada? Canada doesn't own the North Pole, right? Or are we talking about like really, really, really northern Canada? Or what? Where are we right now?
absolute north point is not fixed. It's constantly shifting due to changes in Earth's magnetic field.
Oh wow, look at this thing. I don't understand exactly what the magnetic fields are doing here, but it's clearly going over parts of Canada.
And guess what? It's been moving away from Canada, towards Siberia at an alarming rate.
What the
This is where we wanted to insert a joke, somewhere along the lines of,
"See, even the North Pole is leaving Canada."
but we thought to ask you to come up with a funny line on this. Let us know in the comments below.
The North magnetic field poles are drifting away from Canada. What the heck is going on?
During the 20th century, the North Magnetic Pole went on quite a journey, drifting nearly 1,000 kilometers. But since the 1970s, it's really picked up the pace, zooming from a leisurely 9 kilometers per year to a rapid 52 kilometers.
What does this even mean? They're talking about it like it's a thunderstorm or something. Like how? What? What are should we be worried? What does this mean?
Back in 2007, members of the expedition to locate the magnetic North Pole wrote that such expeditions have become logistically difficult because the North Pole moves farther away from inhabited locations. They expect that in the future, the magnetic pole position will be obtained from satellite data instead of ground surveys.
Okay.
The magnetic field movements is not a new thing. Over the life of Earth, the orientation of the Earth magnetic field has reversed many times. And that's an event known as a geomagnetic reversal.
Okay.
In the modern world, such an event could disrupt communication systems and power grids.
Really?
Animals who rely on magnetic fields for orientation, like birds, whales, and other migratory animals, could encounter problems too.
This is actually pretty interesting. It's not even... So this is something that is in Canada, historically. Might be moving away. Really might honestly have to do, like, it affects the whole planet, though.
But no need to panic. There is no evidence of mass extinctions from geomagnetic reversals in the past. At least for now.
Okay. Okay.
While Earth's magnetic field can divide and confuse, let me tell you about a place that brings people together despite the division. The Haskell Free Library and Opera House stands at the border between Stansted, Quebec and Derby Line, Vermont. Built in 1904, it was intentionally placed on the border as a symbol of unity. It's a library that...
This is one of those places between Canada and the US. I think there's like more than one, or I don't know. There's places that are like half in Canada, half in the US. This is a library?
Belongs to two countries. The library's reading room is in Canada, but its front door is in the US.
No way.
It also has the Opera House. The stage is in Canada, but the audience sits in the US. The library was built by the philanthropist family.
That's funny how literally the rooms are in different countries. Is it like, can you just walk through the library freely, or is there like customs and border patrol like at the seats?
With the name Haskell. It was meant as a gift for people on both sides of the border and as a symbol of friendship. Inside you will see a black line running through the floor to mark the international boundary. So technically, you could grab a book in Canada, then sit down and read it in the US.
It's nice that stuff like this exists. It's a nice thing. And it shows kind of the camaraderie between America and Canada, which has been put under a lot of strain lately with all the stuff going on. These days, who knows, you cross into the American, like, bench pews and some border guards like, show me your phone. Show me your phone. What book are you reading? What's that book? It's like, geez, forget it. I'll go to the reading room.
Without even going through customs. Today, the Haskell Free Library is one of the only places in the world where you can casually hang out in two countries at once.
That's cool.
And
That's
honestly,
cool.
It's the most Canadian thing ever, a place to bring people together no matter where they're from.
That's awesome.
So how's it going so far? How many new interesting facts did you learn? Here's one more quirky piece of Canadian history for you.
Most of these I've never heard of. Probably like, I think like 7 out of 9 I had never heard of.
Canada is home to the world's smallest jail. Как это произносится?
Huh?
Yeoilde Jail, located in Rodney, Ontario, measures just 25 square meters.
The smallest jail? The smallest jail. Is this still in use? The Ye Olde Jail.
That's about the size of a single car garage. The building still has its...
Some say, if you want to live in this jail, it'll still cost $3.5 million in Canada. That's a little housing price joke for you.
It's original steel cell doors, stove, and a yellow brick exterior. Built in 1890, this tiny jail was less of a prison and more of a cooling-off station for rowdy locals and passing travelers.
Okay.
With just 2 cramped cells, it was never meant for long-term stays. Think of it as the 19th century version of a timeout corner for adults. Today, the Rodney Jail hasn't held prisoners in decades. Instead, it's become a charming tourist attraction.
So, how Canadian is it that this little jail, a prison with bars, is somehow like cute and wholesome?
Locals even celebrate it as part of the town's unique heritage.
Okay.
When I was moving to Canada, some people kept stressing how boring it was. But the more I learn about this country, the more fascinated I get.
It's not that Americans think Canada is boring. It's just that a lot of Americans don't know what to think when we think of Canada. We don't learn much about Canada in school, and we don't hear about Canada much in, the United States in news and pop culture. And so it's not that it's boring, it's just we don't know stuff.
From underwater salt mines and the island of wild horses to the library built on the border and green energy obsession.
Okay, well, it sounds like that's the end of the video. And yeah, that's kind of the note I want to leave off on, is like, Canada, there's so much about it that us Americans don't know. And it's so interesting and cool and kind of like America in some ways and so different in other ways. And I really enjoyed this video and learning these very random, mind-blowing things about Canada. This was really cool. So anyway, if you enjoyed this as well, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment with your thoughts on any of these Canadian facts. That'd be fun to hear about. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to Canada and learning things about Canadian culture I've never learned before, never seen before, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.